morning to everybody. Our pleasure today. We're looking forward to this session. So I'm going to, without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Brad, who's going to take it from here. So all yours, sir.
Thanks very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Callisto Grand Coffee Club. And a bit of a hot topic that seems to be calling out everybody this morning is what's going on with the future, what's going on with ourselves, what's going on with our coffee, but more importantly, is AI going to be taking our jobs by next Tuesday? Now, just a bit of housekeeping. This session will be recorded for CPD accreditation, and it'll be available for Callisto members later this week. But it's a hot topic on a lot of people's minds, so we're going to hit it in 5 particular ways. First of all, give a potted history of AI, which is quite fascinating. A lot of it has just come to the forefront of people's consciousness over the last couple of years, but it really has quite a colourful history. We're going to try to demystify some of the terminology, such as NLPs and LLMs and all this fun stuff. Get a look at the current trends in use, both personally and in business. Have a look at the impact this is going to have on our lives. And that's going to be pretty profound and probably not as frightening as a lot of people would say. And a few tips that have come up with here at Callisto to try to stay relevant in an area that's constantly changing. So we're going to kick it off with a little bit of a quiz and give you an idea. And we've got the poll up there, Esther, when you have a minute. But when was man's first invention of a device that could be considered as AI?
Just FYI, please put your answers into the chat function of Zoom. A, B, or C, or the year is good too. Thank you.
That's right. Will it be 1975, 200 BC, or 2011? Enter your answers in the poll now.
We're getting, what are we getting here? Quite a few say 1975, and a few that say 200 BC. One or two are saying 2000 in the 2000s, but mainly a mix of 1975s and 200s. So the answer, please, drum roll.
Okay, so let's have a look at the answer. It's 200 BC. In 1901, divers off the Greek coast found the Antikythera mechanism. My apologies to any Greek nationals in the audience, but it was a clockwork mechanism that accurately predicted the movement of celestial bodies in the heavens. It would track the planets and the stars with remarkable accuracy, only using brass cogs and gears. But the mathematical precision on this thing was amazing. They tried to reconstruct it because it was actually found in a shipwreck. So what you see here is a reconstruction of what it would have looked like. It's actually quite corroded because it had been on the bottom of the sea floor for over 2,000 years. But this was quite a fascinating device, and it's taken scientists and historians several decades to try to reverse engineer and to figure out what they were thinking. So mankind has always had this technology, and I think we've lost a lot of it. So it's interesting to see some of it come back. But yeah, we've been at this for a while. But I'll just give you a quick potted history. So again, going back pre-1900, there were various clockwork robots that had quite complicated clockwork mechanisms to do pre-programmed tasks. So in the 16th century, there was a clockwork automaton monk that would walk in and bow. In 1737, a Frenchman came up with a mechanical flute device, and they would actually play tunes. In 1774, the writer, that little doll there, would actually write out a pre-programmed number of poems and sonnets, and it would actually do it by brass cogs and gearing that could be slotted into the back of the doll to run these out. So it was sort of like a ROM, if you like, a read-only memory done mechanically. 1849, Charles Babbage's difference engine, whilst it looks like a large steam engine, it was actually the first thing that could do algebra mechanically. Jumping ahead, 1966 was the first time we had a thing called Eliza. That was the first chatbot. I'm not sure if anybody remembers this, but I remember playing around with this, and you could ask it questions. It was like it was like an automated therapist, and even though it was a very much a rules-based program, it still gave the impression that you were talking to the thing. 1967, there was two scientists, I think it was from MIT, I could be wrong on that, Newell and Simon, developed a general problem-solving program that started to think like human beings. 1981, the Japanese came up with robotics in their core manufacturing in the automotive industry, and that's where we get the just-in-time manufacturing process from. Some of us may remember that Clippy, that little assistant, that little animation that came up when you were writing a Word document. And even though it annoyed us, it was quite ahead of its time in what it could do and run in the background. 1999, we find out the machines are in fact a little smarter than us, with Gary Kasparov being defeated by IBM's Deep Blue in a chess playoff. 2006. Now we're getting into something that's probably a little more in our memories. This is where we get Netflix recommendation algorithm for viewing preferences, Google's machine translation into various languages. 2010, Apple releases Siri, putting it on its iPhones. 2011, Google Maps starts being used by AI to predict traffic patterns rather than just simply being a map application. 2013, computer games learn how to play as a human and play better than us. 2014, Alexa is launched by Amazon. And in 2018, a generative pre-trained transformer, or a GPT, version 1 was released, bringing it to the modern age. And what you'll notice is the acceleration of development, just focusing on AI. 2019, ChatGPT-2 was released using 8 million documents as its base for training its database. We'll get onto what that is like a little later. A year later, version 3 is released. A year later, Google bring out their own large language model. Don't worry, we'll get to what that is a little later. 2022, a year later, the GPT 3.5 is released. A year later, version 4 with around 1 trillion parameters or little or rules that it used to effectively train itself. 2024, smaller more efficient LLMs are developed by a company, DeepMind. And this year, 2025, this was profound. It kind of went under a lot of people's radar, but the Chinese entered the race for AI, and I think they entered with a bigger storm than the US. You might remember when the Huawei devices caused a bit of a storm back in the US, and the US government banned that platform, banned the brand from being in country, and the Chinese said, "Okay, fine, no problem," and they reversed back to themselves, and the Chinese government put billions of dollars into AI development. And now AI coming out of Huawei and other similar firms out of China is actually performing at or better than the leader NVIDIA in the US. So China's developments are something that we are definitely going to keep an eye on, because they will be a very, very big player in this race. So in the meantime, let's just get under the hood and try to demystify what some of these terms are. First of all, there's AI and there's generative AI. And the dumbed down version of this is AI tries to predict trends and analyze data. Generative AI makes stuff. So if you think of, let's say, those two pictures that you're seeing on the left, they were generated by AI. So the difference really being is that one simply looks at data and tries to model predictions and so forth. The other one actually will generate content. And this has got a lot of artists quite worried about the future of it. So I think what we should be doing is crying out for authenticity in our artistic expression. But best used for something like fraud detection and automation, the traditional AI. Content creation, design, entertainment, and research is best for the generative. The difference between the two in their development: one, the traditional AI can usually have more smaller data sets and is a little more transparent in its development. Generative AI is a little less understood, and it doesn't necessarily have I suppose, the transparency that is done by something that's simply data, and it requires a lot larger data sets because typically it's also trying to map images, which can take quite a lot of memory. So let's just dive in to see what some of these other things are. Natural language processing. And I'll try to dumb this down, but effectively that turns people speak, how you and I speak, into the way a computer will speak, and then back again. So, for example, if you type into GPT, help me find a pancake recipe that I can use to teach children. GPT is going to break that down into smaller words or keywords or what it calls tokens, so it can check out its own database or look through a web search. I'll just simply show you how that works. So the natural language processor, the first thing it'll do, you enter into your text and it hits the natural language processor. Boy, it's early for me. And it will take your text of help me find a pancake recipe that I can use to teach children, and it breaks it down into that. Now, I don't know if anybody here has done a whole lot of programming in JSON, but that's effectively how the computer thinks about something. So it takes the green. The green are effectively what's called tokens for the query. This is effectively, for lack of better words, the keywords. And it will use its language database. This is what a large language model looks like. Or it will use a web query. Various platforms will use various degrees of those resources, both internal and external, and we'll get on to which ones use it and why. But effectively, it will use the resources that it has, either internal or external. It will try to solve that query for you, and then it will use the natural language program again on the way out to turn all of its tokens and all of its keywords and all of its data into something like that. That includes turning the raw data and all of those tokens and all of those keywords into natural language, including the formatting. So it doesn't just get one long string of words. It actually says, right, we need to have a carriage feed here and here and here, just so that we can present it easier to the user. Now, this is really awesome what it's actually done now. A large language model, excuse me. This is where the artificial intelligence module has been trained. And the way they've done that is the programmers of these modules, be it ChatGPT or Claude or Microsoft Copilot, they have pointed the program to millions of web pages, text articles, PDF sites, websites, posts, bulletins, images, graphs, so the computer can get an idea of effectively finding what words on a page go with other words and what words come after that. So it's kind of putting a puzzle together. So when we enter a phrase, this is the weird part. When we enter a phrase into a ChatGPT or something similar, it gets converted into numbers. So in one sense, the AI isn't dealing with words, it's dealing with numbers. So when you say, can you find me a pancake recipe? Effectively, it is just seeing a string of numbers and it deals in that. Then what it needs to do is match what words come with those words. So it has within its database, it has a huge catalog of words. And this is part of its training. And what it's done, it's able to analyze and say, right, I'm scanning a page. Let's say it's for a pancake recipe. I'm scanning a page. What words are going to be on or near that page? And they will be words, and we'll go through this in a bit more detail, but they will be the sort of words that you're probably thinking right now when I say the word pancake. You're thinking of flour, egg, sugar, syrup, jam, butter. These are the sort of things that has been trained to, and it builds up a repertoire. And it then uses those, for lack of better words, number words to predict what is going to be the next word in the sentence. It's pretty much nothing more than a really, really sophisticated auto text, auto predict, like or an autocorrect. That's effectively what it does. Understand, it's not thinking like you and I. All it is doing is spotting trends in numbers. Again, it's not spotting trends in words, it's spotting trends in numbers because it has a whole, remember, it's got a whole catalog of words that have been converted in its head to numbers, or its database. And then once it's found all those keywords, it puts all of it together and goes back through that NLP that we were talking about, so it can convert all of those numbers into words, and then in words that make sense to you and I. Let's just walk through an example. You enter the phrase, help me find a recipe that I can teach to children. What the AI sees is it breaks down every single one of those words and it assigns it a number. That's just those numbers are random, by the way. It's just a simulation. But it breaks and it says help is 2061, me is 460, right on through. And because of its training, it uses algorithms and its formulae to think what is typically next to those words. So, for example, the word pancake would have if you looked at a page, if it looked at it's looked at millions of pages on the internet and it says, based on me surveying those pages, whenever I have seen the word pancake, there's been an 87% chance that that same page will carry the word flour, a 71% chance it would carry the word sugar, 82% chance it would carry the word eggs, and so forth. It then uses that database, that foundation, to think, right, knowing what I know, and I'm personifying the AI, but I think that's the best way I could do it. It says, what are going to be the next words in that string? So there is an 87% chance, for example, that the next word should be flour, a 75% chance that the next word would be milk, a 5% chance that the next word would be pineapple, and a 0.0001 chance that it would see the words forensics or radioactivity or exit wounds on something that's got to do with teaching children how to make pancakes. And again, your own mind would probably say, yeah, that makes sense. And after it's done that, it's got all its data together, then it decodes them back using the NLP. It kind of uses that process to think, right, what are the words needed? What's the format needed? And how do I deliver it? So sometimes if you've got Siri or Alexa at home where you can shout out, hey, give me a recipe for pancakes, it will deliver it for you in an audible form. Or in some cases, it might come back over chat or voice or text. So that's kind of, and I know if there's any, by the way, I'm going to apologize in advance. If there is anybody online who has any work, who's done any work in AI, please understand that I'm simplifying this for a non-tech audience. And if there are some things that I've kind of oversimplified or I've kind of paraphrased in a way, feel free to drop those in the chat and I'll get to them as I can. But doing that now, let's just have a look at what's going on in AI and what people are thinking about it. Now, there's a lot of graphs and surveys out there. I thought this particular one was telling. It was a survey done by a number of business leaders in financial services across the globe, comparing what their attitudes were to AI in 2022 and 2025. And I know graphs are not easy to certainly focus on at this time of the morning, but that's the one you want to look at. So effectively, in 2022, they were thinking, yeah, AI should be a thing. So 46% were saying, yes, we've got some sort of idea that we should integrate some form of AI. Bring it forward to today, and effectively nearly half are saying, if we don't get AI in here, we're dead in the water. And those, again, this is in the financial service industry, but it's gone from 8% to 43% of business leaders in just that one sector thinking we better get AI on board and at scale quickly. And already we're seeing some of it. I'm sure every single one of us have gone online to some form of, whether it's a low-cost airline or it's your internet provider or a mobile phone company, and you've had to deal with a chat bot. And again, I'm not going to right now say that that's going to be the end of jobs or anything like that. But I think it's actually certainly sped up a lot of customer service, even though probably right now we'd still like to talk to a real human. Predictive analysis. Now, this has been used for years in financial services for, let's say, trading trends and finding out commodity and stock prices. But it is becoming far more so sophisticated now. It's now used in, let's say, retail to find out the best times to sell particular items or when to discount them better. It's used in logistics. If you've ever seen an airport or a major train station, you can just imagine trying to manage the millions of pieces of information and significant items that need to be worked out there. Process automation, taking all of those PDFs and those manual transactions that we've got and getting AI to scan documents and to make an idea to say, it looks like, based on the fragment of that customer's name and previous banking details and the amount that's outstanding, that invoice should be paid with that remittance that's sitting in my suspense account. Market and content creation. This is going big now, and I think the generative AI area that we've got here in content creation is going to take off. Document analysis. If you've ever looked at a document and if you're not a lawyer, your eyes roll and you think, how am I going to understand what's going on? Now you can point AI to a document and it can give you, in just a few lines, what's going on in that document. And it could be 30, 40 pages long. What's going on in this document, what are the main points, and where are the main things to move. That's certainly impacting the legal area. Fraud detection and cybersecurity. If recently I signed up for a Revolut account and I didn't have to speak to one human. All I did was to take a selfie of me. I had moved my face a couple of times to see that I was a legitimate individual, that I was a living person. And I showed a picture of my passport. It knew exactly where the biometric data was, and it was able to verify me online, literally just with a mobile phone. This has got brilliant applications, and it's certainly speeding up the ever increasing and ever more complicated areas of verifying people. I mean, I'll just leave these up here, excuse me, for a moment. But these are the areas that AI are putting in place. Now, all AI is doing is just giving you the output. There's still the ethical and the personal areas that we ought to look for, and we'll get to those at a little later point. But pharmaceuticals, accelerating drug recovery in clinical trials, you're running simulations there. Engineering, trying to find out stress points on bridges and railway crossings and buildings that will be sitting over strange surfaces. Construction, simple things like where are going to be the safety hazards on this building site as we go forward, so they can tell supervisors. Logistics, route optimization, saving even just a minute or two on every delivery because you can predict the traffic, will save billions for companies like Amazon and UPS and FedEx. Coming over to aerospace, like I said, if you've ever looked at an airport and try to figure out how do they see all of the vehicles and people and moving parts going on, that's going to get more and more impacted by AI doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Agriculture, This was fascinating. Saw a video of a combine harvester that would go up and down a field of crop, and it would use AI to detect weeds on the ground, and then instruct a laser mounted on that combine harvester to destroy the weed. So no pesticides, just a simple bolt of light to take out a weed. Incredible. Again, all of that run by AI is AI knows what a weed is, or what a strawberry plant or a carrot plant or a parsnip plant looks like. Manufacturing, we've already seen what just-in-time innovation has done for automotive. That's going to get more and more prevalent. Financial services, we've just been talking about what it means for things like fraud detection and PEP screening. And again, with the amount of data that is coming on board, artificial intelligence is really going to be the only position, the only tool that we've got to try to deal with the millions, probably trillions of lines of data that we'll be seeing annually. We've gotten beyond the idea of putting our businesses now on a spreadsheet. Are there any questions at all, Mark or Esther, that are come up?
Not yet, but there's a lot of people going to have pancakes for breakfast. That's for sure.
My job here is done.
Indeed, okay. Indeed. Pancake sales will shoot up the next couple of days.
That's great. That's great to know. That's great to know. Teach the kids. Out of all the surveys I've done, obviously the killer question is, look, are we going to be out of a job by next Tuesday? I don't think we are. I don't think we are. But it's definitely going to have an impact on our jobs. And that's going to be the part where we really have to keep our eyes open. So let's have a look at what that's going to look like. Now, there's a lot going on in that graph. Let me try to walk you through it nice and quickly. We've got how the economies of the world and what the employment market, the labor market, is going to be in terms of the level of impact that AI is going to have on them. So broken down into just world averages, advanced economies or the Western economies, emerging markets, and low-income countries. Okay, third world, that sort of thing. The blue are areas that are not going to be touched. And of course, in developing countries or third world countries where technology is fairly low, still very agrarian, very manual, it makes sense that those aren't going to be impacted. What you're looking for is the pink. The area in pink are the ones that are in the shooting sights of there. And the term high exposure, low complementary, that's the one you've got to look for, because what that's saying is that that job has a high possibility of being impacted by AI, and the AI will do a better job than the human. And there's very little that the human can add to the process that's going to be of a net benefit. So the pink is what we've got to worry about. We'll find out what ones are pink and not. The other one is the red, which is high exposure, high complementary. What it's saying is workers in that industry will have a almost exponential benefit in productivity by using AI. Their jobs will become better and faster and more productive by the use of AI. So let's see who's going to be impacted. Ones on the left are the good ones. Ones on the right are the ones that are going to be impacted. Now, that's not saying, for example, the number is 39% of artists are going to be impacted, or 63% of cashiers will be impacted. What that graph is saying there is that what is the level of impact out of all the duties that you are doing? How much will be impacted by automation? Now, on the left, the artists, the musicians, those are the ones that are going to be assisted by that. They're the ones that are going to really be leveraged up by that. And this is everything from, let's say, Photoshop that can take out errors, or sometimes entire people from various photos, musicians who can correct errors and not worrying about rewinding tapes and so forth. Therapists not impacted that much because it's a very humane type of work. Nurses, again, more so. Electricians and mechanics, and this is the irony: the machines can't fix themselves yet, and someone's going to have to plug them in, and someone's going to have to make sure that they're wired. So an electrician is going to see very little in way of that. what I can see from surveys I've done and read is that they'll have a better idea to, let's say, diagnose any faults in, let's say, large buildings or complicated structures. On the left, this is on the right, sorry, this is where it's going to be impacted. Now, I don't know about you, but I cannot remember the last time I actually went up to somebody on one of the checkouts, with the conveyor belt in the supermarket. I can't remember the last time I put my groceries there. I'm sure everyone now is doing more of their shopping by the automated self checkout. Now, whilst that has seen a shift and a lot less people required, because now instead of one person serving one person, we can have one person supervising the checkout activities of 10 or 15 people at once. Where it's changed, and I thought this was quite revealing. Where it's changed is that there's less people doing the frontline customer service in store. But if you look at even a modest sized grocery store, what I'm seeing here in the UK are people within the store going around with small trolleys, filling up orders that have been requested online from, let's say, Volt or Deliveroo or Just Eat, where you can just have a quick shop that you could have somebody do that for you. So people are still working in the industry. It's just, as I said earlier, that job has been impacted. No longer are you serving people face to face. You're going around with a device online saying, pick these items in store for this customer and get it ready for somebody to come and take for a delivery. So those are the sort of things that is how it is going to be changed. Cleaners, humans just clean better than robots, even though that we've probably got you've probably got those automatic what do they call them? What do they call Roomba? Is that the vacuum cleaner thing, the little vacuum cleaner robot? We still need to get on our knees with the scrubbers to clean. So that's giving an idea of what's going on with the sort of the types of work that'll be impacted. So it's not that everyone's going to lose their job, it's just that the job that you're doing is going to change. And that leads me to the next point. What to do about it? Excuse me. Workers in all kinds of industries are going to be impacted by automation, and it's up to us to understand where that is in our own jobs. Now, you've probably heard the saying, no one's coming to save you. And in one sense, that's true. It's still very much a wild west and an unknown. And we are going to have to keep an eye on where our jobs could potentially change. That said, and we'll get to this in a little bit later. That said, still the intelligence, the creative, the emotional skills, as well as technical skills, are all things that we're going to have to train ourselves up on. And I know it sounds self-serving. I'm working for a training organization, but these sort of training programs that teach you how to keep up with the changes are going to be something that I think businesses are going to have to get back on the radar. Training budgets are being slashed, and I think this is going to usher in an era where the training comes back online. So, Mark, I'm not sure if you've got anything to say about that particular, or
Um, a little bit, really, just like you said, I think I've noticed a lot of companies are making mistakes, really, where their plans for this year and next year in terms of talent development are, let's get people learning different programs, let's get people to understand more of what you're sharing today. But the fundamental piece I think that will always be found out is you've really got to understand the basics of your profession first. Like whether you're in credit with us or accounts payable or accounting, you really have to understand the absolute basics before you can really get the advantage of any technology. But obviously we're talking about AI now, and that'll be revealed more in the next couple of slides.
exactly, exactly. So I suppose that it'd be disingenuous of me to say, okay, this wonderful new frontier is coming. It's kind of got us a bit nervous. It is going to change. How do I stay relevant? And I think this is probably the most telling thing. There's a lot of surveys that are out there. I've looked at quite a number of them. they all look the same. They all have a similar feel about it. This was a survey done by an AI company called tech.uk, and it reveals something pretty easy. I mean, look, I think what's circled in red, these are what are going to be important. It is not, can I program Python, or pardon me, can I do something in SQL? No, that's not what you're going to need. More and more in demand are going to be skills like communication, problem solving, time management, people management, relationship building. These are all things that AI can't do, but we can. And survey after survey keeps saying communication and people skills will be the killer app in the 21st century. Now, the sad irony about this is that over the last 20 years, but especially since COVID, so many of us have just retreated back into our shells. We've lost this ability to communicate to each other. We do it on chat, we do it online, we do it via email or a Slack message or a WhatsApp message. Real life communication, face-to-face communication, talking to people, working through their emotions and everything that comes with it. If you're a supervisor, if you're a team leader, you're looking after 10, 15 people, that's 10 different personalities, that's 10 different attitudes, that's 10 different sets of problems, that's 10 different home with the wife or the husband and kids and family situations.
Okay,
But
Brad,
all of those...
right now the bots can even give you the physical psychological help, right? So there are chats that you can talk like with the psychologist right now, and the psychologists that change according to the requirements from the people. So it's something that I think can be also replaced, maybe not in next 5 years, but probably in 20 years. There is even a chat on the WhatsApp, I've heard, that you can talk with the bot about your problems and talk like with a friend that you have.
That's true, but you do understand all you're doing is telling a glorified calculator what's going on.
Yeah.
And as all that is doing, you are saying, I'm having a problem with social anxiety. Do you know what the chat bot, what it is hearing is 30772 4066 889
Yeah, that's true.
3030. That's all it is doing. And it is just telling you numbers back, and it is simulating that. The computer, and as we get onto this, it doesn't think. AI does not think. It looks like it does. Okay, it gives you the impression that it's thinking. All it is a glorified calculator. All it is doing is just relaying numbers to you and converting them into characters that you can see on screen. It doesn't know how you feel. It's got no idea of empathy. It doesn't understand what pain or disappointment or heartbreak is. It doesn't know what it is to be stood up at a date when they said, I'll definitely be at the restaurant at 7:30. It's got no clue. All it can do is try to survey what other people have said about it. That's all it's doing. And this is I suppose one thing that we don't want to be in a position where we're relying on the numbers to tell us. Okay, it's terrible. We actually want a human being, and I think we've kind of lost sight of that. And at some point, that's the only thing we've got. Really, we're seeing the computer can start doing going off piste here a little bit, but the computer is all it is doing is just a survey of numbers.
I think, Monica, you've stirred up a great conversation there, and thank you for that. And it will kind of it is one that's going to run and run, and it is interesting. Where is the line between what the technology can tell us? And I think what we're trying to stress here a lot is that we still need to bear in mind that they're not humans yet, and amen for that. And as was commented just now, who would pay for an AI therapist? I think that's a great question, a great comment. So
by the way, you don't have to pay right now for this. I know it's stupid from our perspective when we talk like this. Yeah, it's strange. You're talking with the computer, but the computer on other sides give you the answer. This it helps a lot of people. We cannot just decline that it's not true. It helps right now lots of people. So lots of people using those chats, right? And they are getting the help from the chats that are free, right? So this is, of course, it won't replace the human being and thinking. I understand, Brad, but on the other side, if it helps 80% of the people and only 20 people needs the interaction, also this communication part in the dealing with the AI is something that can be in some part replaced by the chats, right?
Yeah, I think that I'm not trying, Monica, I'm not trying to dismiss the benefit it could have with it, but it should be used to, I suppose, supplement the sort of troubles that people are feeling in that. At the end of the day, what should be done, we should be really looking to try to restore that level of humanity for us. So yeah,
Yeah.
get some advice from the Chat GPT, because it is like, say, in one sense, it will give you, I suppose, a survey of what other people. So it's like having 1,000 therapists in a room and getting a survey from them and thinking, okay, people who suffer from, let's say, social anxiety typically offer these traits,
Yeah.
and these are the ways you can deal with that. Okay,
Yeah.
so I would say yes. If you are looking at getting some help, let's say you've got a teenage daughter who's going through some problems, and right now there's nothing wrong with you going online and thinking, right, what does this person say about it? What has this therapist said? What has been the survey of attitudes towards teenage development in 2025? That's brilliant knowledge to have, but it's only knowledge. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, what you want is that teenage daughter in front of somebody she can trust.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think
that's
trying to,
obvious, but
yeah,
also lots of psychologists right now work the same way. So they are learned how to deal with anxiety, and they just go uh, with the agreed structure, right? So with the learned structure of the task, right? So I think that AI will replace poor psychologists in the future. The good ones, the ones that have the empathy, that follow the individual cases and focus on the individual cases, they will not be replaced. So I think that AI is a great competitor for people that are not very good in their profession, in every profession. So if you are a
yeah.
very good specialist, you don't have to be afraid. But if you are just the average person, it's time to either start to be afraid or.
I think it's a good point to, you can almost extrapolate it to, because we're obviously in credits. So in a couple of cases, and maybe in actually many cases, the problems that people have for which they will speak to a therapist, those are indeed maybe quite some common things where indeed it could make sense that a chatbot could help, at least in the first line. I'm from Belgium. We have a huge shortage in terms of therapists, long waiting times. So there it indeed could help. And then let's say leave the humans for the cases where you actually need like a human to speak to, the difficult cases, making a reference to credits. For some credit decisions, this is something that you could easily automate if it's very straightforward. Whereas in more tricky cases, you need to have a human deep dive, looking into it, have that human twist to understand all the details, etc. So I do think it's something, going back on the therapist, it can definitely help. It can help with the shortage. It can help with waiting times. Are we going to completely replace it? Definitely not. But I do think it's a very, maybe also for some people, like a very low threshold to seek help. So I think that's also a very important part. Not to go too much into the whole therapist part, but I think it's a valid remark, Monica.
And just to I think that what's coming out of the conversation really is that it one of the things that we've discussed frequently really is that yes, chat GPT and all these AIs are a fantastic help, but we still have to have our abilities to be able to interpret what we need, what we don't need, as we've been saying, what we need to take to a specialist or a therapist or whatever source, but still there's going to be needed the human intervention. And I think going back to our chart here and the items that are highlighted, when we were doing the rehearsals on this in the last couple of days, when you look at the top 5 characteristics there, communication, problem solving, and so on, down to relationship building. One of the things that stood out for me, and you touched on it just now, Afia, we're all in the credit industry, and these top 5 attributes are probably the top 5 things we need to be very good working in our profession, right? And that's why I was saying earlier, the need to be totally proficient in what we do, qualified and so on, plus that then leads us to have all these skills of people management and relationship building and so on. So I was really surprised when I saw this, and I think it very nicely kind of brings everything that we're discussing together. So okay, great stuff.
I'm just going to quickly show an image right now, which might be disturbing for some people. So if you are of low constitution, please look away. But this is a modern day horror story, pretty much for all of us.
Can you just take that back a little bit faded, blurry?
Oh, I don't see it. No, sorry.
No.
2% battery on
your unblur the background, I think, and we will see it.
It's 2% battery that your charger. You need a charger, and you didn't bring it. Yeah, guilty.
I mean, that for all of us, that's a trouble. Okay, and our therapist is down to 2% just when they were trying to solve our problems. It's terrible. But just get it. So let's just get an idea. Sorry, that was my attempt at humor. Fell flat. It worked better in rehearsal. Let's find out. Let's try to delineate the difference between what the machines are going to be doing and what us, pretty meat sacks will be doing when it comes to information and people. So the amount of data that is being produced in every transaction we are doing in life, whether that's tracking on Google Maps, swiping to get a coffee, or tracking where your bag is going through Heathrow, the amount of data that is being produced is astronomical, and we just can't keep up with it anymore. We've gone beyond the idea that we can put even the most simple things in our business on a spreadsheet and digest it. Those days, I think, are behind us, especially for businesses at scale. And then processing that information, not just the raw, not just the incomprehensible amount of data that we've got, but also how do we process it? How do we digest it? Okay, everyone's talking. Remember, we were talking about big data and so forth. A lot of us are still struggling there. A lot of us still file all our important stuff in Microsoft Outlook. Okay, that's our most important data, okay, is a Microsoft Outlook. And most of the key financial information is on one lovingly handcrafted spreadsheet that only 2 people in the department know how to drive. So we still have got to get over that lump first. And we still have all this information to process. Not only that, with all those transactions that are going on and all that information, what do we look for? Where are the data points that are going to be an alarm for us? What is going to trigger us? I mean, if you can just imagine, for example, if you've got a portfolio of 10,000 accounts and all manner of information is coming in, what do you look for? How do you scan for it? It's just, it's beyond the scope of human imagination. So we're going to have to get our tin and plastic friends down in the server room to do all that heavy lifting. But that means that opens up a different set of challenges for us. Okay. First of all, we've got to make an interpretation of all of this information, even if it's summarized to one simple BI report or one simple spreadsheet or one simple PDF on one page. We've still got to think, how do I apply this in the real world? That is still something that you and I can only do. That's the context, forecasting, and what are the social implications? If I do this action, what is it going to mean for my clients? What's it going to mean for my staff? That gets down to then the decision-making process that we have to go through, because you've got to be able to say, what am I going to do with all of this? How am I going to steer it? What benefits am I going to have by now looking at this? And then there's the supervision or the accountability of this. Because at the end of the day, If something goes wrong, they're not going to go downstairs and unplug a server rack. They're going to be looking for an individual, especially when that comes to the higher risk areas such as medical, pharmaceutical, law, finance, air traffic control, those sort of things. If let's say that you're a credit analyst and a credit manager, and you've let a particular algorithm go through that has, for let's say some reason, approved a whole lot of high risk deals, you better believe that the C-suite, or even let's say the regulator, isn't going to be coming after the bot. It's going to be coming after somebody to say, why in the world did you let that out? What were your checks and balances on there? So that level of human engagement is still something that we're going to need to do. We're still going to have people who are going to have to be accountable. And I think in one sense, the idea of accountability is something that we've kind of pushed back a little bit. If we're letting these machines out, we've got to make sure that we can grab the brake lever on this and turn it around really, really quickly. So all of those things are still going to be something that's very, very important. If even what you were saying about automated credit scoring, understand that credit scoring is a human decision. All you have done is said, we are going to allow clients that have this credit profile to have this type of we're going to engage with them with this sort of business on this sort of terms. All that the credit scoring and the automation has done is simply automate that decision, that single decision that you've got, or that cluster of decisions. A human still made them, or a bunch of humans in, let's say, let's say it was a board decision, said, yeah, this is the policy that we're going to have in play. So with all of that, in play, how do we master this technology? We can't put our heads in the sand anymore and think, okay, that's ChatGPT or something that's a bit too technical for me. I'm still catching up with Google. So if we really want to be at the top of the bus of this, we've got to understand how to use it. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I spend heaps of time. Maybe I need to get out more. Maybe I need a therapist, Monica. I don't know. I should meet you for a coffee and we can discuss all this. But how do we actually get the best out of this new technology? Okay. Now, and I'll just use ChatGPT because this one's hit our lexicon, our vernacular so hard. But let's say that we're looking at something like this. That this is a basic search. What should be in a business plan? Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And certainly if it's a question like, how do I make pancakes to show the kids? That's a perfectly legitimate query to have. But it's got no structure. It's got no idea of what the audience is. And it's got no tips or tricks. This is the sort of thing that we should be inputting into there. This is the sort of thing that was designed for. So if I had a business plan, this is the sort of thing you should be asking ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or something like that. Act like a venture capital partner in reviewing early stage plans in a fintech. So you're saying, I want you to assume a human role. And I want you now to, in that human role, look at my startup plan. And I'm going to enter what that text is. And I want you then to look through that plan, and in the guise of being a business investor, I want you to tell me what's good, bad, and ugly about it. That's a little more directed. That's a little more understanding about what's going on. And what I might do now, and just to show you, I'll demonstrate this up a little easier. But I'll throw some things into the chat if I can. If Esther, you can just make sure that people get it. I'll do that in a minute. But what we're showing here, the other thing that this is doing is saying, I want you to narrow your search, not to every idiot who's had a business idea, but to the leaders of business, to the champions of business, the sort of people who've got money. I want you to focus your attention to that. And I know I'm being anthropomorphic. I know I'm personifying this. But I think what you need to do here is channel it to say, I want you to narrow it down to this type of response. Okay, I'll give you another example. So let's just say, for example, that you wanted to, and look, you can take a screenshot of it, but I'll just drop, hang on, I can drop this now into the chat. Just let me know if that works. Okay. So for those who've got that in chat, you've got that in the chat. Okay, so you can download that little text file if you like. But if, let's say, for example, you think, oh, I'm sick of corporate life, I want to go solo, I want to go freelance. You could put this into Chat GPT, you could put this into Perplexity, you could put this into Copilot or Gemini, and it will give you quite a detailed response about it. So you can actually put in your LinkedIn profile or your CV, and it will process that and it will give you a detailed business plan about what to do. Now, it's always a good idea, as I'll go on to work through this and to chat about it and to challenge the response that you're getting. But that's the sort of thing that you should be putting in. Here's another one: unlocking your career potential. Let me just hang on, dismiss that. Unlocking your career potential. Let's just say that you wanted to move in the company, but you didn't necessarily have the ability to get the advice that you want. Now, Monica, this is where your virtual therapist or your IT therapist would come in to be a career counselor. I want you to act as a career strategist, an executive mentor. I'll provide a summary of my job role and I want to get ahead. Now look at the bottom here. Assume that I'm motivated, capable, and willing. I just need targeted, self-driven plan to advance in an environment where internal career guidance is lacking or generic. Okay. So, thanks, Ethan. No trouble. So these are the sort of things that you can actually get it to do.
Brad, just to say we're down to the last couple of minutes.
Okay, I'll wrap it up really quick. I'll put that on. Yeah. So this is actually a layout, and this will be. I don't like large textual spreadsheet sheets on presentations. This is a bit of a cheat sheet for later when the material is available. One thing I do have to point out is beware of your firm's IT policy. Please play by the rules. There's confidentiality and privacy areas that you've got to be in place. Only use approved tools. Sometimes the companies have actually blocked the Chat GPTs and so forth, and they've said, we only want you to use this one. Check for the output. Not everything is going to be perfect, and AI just simply gets an answer. It might not necessarily be the best one. Understand also that there is copyrighted material that it will look at. You have to be careful about that, and also keep a paper trail. I'll go through this quickly. These are the main players. It's not just ChatGPT, even though that's high in our lexicon. Perplexity and Claude are also brilliant ones. Claude is a brilliant wordsmith, but it doesn't have any ability to search. So it's fabulous if you want to compose some text. It's terrible if you want it to reference something out there. Perplexity, Gemini, Meta are better for that. Some others here, Copilot, that's built into Microsoft, Quillbot as well. So I think it's really important to understand this will affect our lives and it will reshape our jobs. Learn how this works. What we have known in history is that every time new technology comes on board and people learn how to use it and commercialize it, they make obscene amounts of money. If you think of the leaders right now, your Jeff Bezos, your Elon Musks, your Bill Gates, all of those who've leveraged technology as it came out, learn to really make a lot of money. So this is something that's really important. Also remember, AI doesn't think. And one more thing, we're the only humans on the planet. We're the only ones with creativity and problem solving. So, yeah, and I know we're coming up to the hour, but if there are any questions, please.
Okay, I think that was amazing. Do we have any more conversations, questions? No. As we're just about on time, Brad, thank you for that. That was amazing. I know you put an awful lot of time and effort into putting that together for us, and it is appreciated. It's been a great conversation. I've been seeing some of the chat here. We couldn't get to a lot of it, but we'll certainly follow up with all these points and so on in the next couple of days. Remember, as I said before, if you want to see this recording for Callisto members, it's in our membership section on the website. If you want to, I think maybe we could have another 1 or 2 sessions around different aspects of AI. We can drill into things in more detail. Otherwise, we've had 78 people joined us today from at least 12 different countries. So we're really honored, and thank you all for coming. We always appreciate it. We never take it for granted you give your time for this. Thank you very much. We're back again on the 27th of May. There'll be information on the Callisto LinkedIn. And we look forward to seeing you all then. So in the meantime, Brad, once again, thank you. Everybody else who's joined us as well, again, thanks very much indeed. Stay in touch, take care, stay safe, God bless, and catch up with you all very soon. Thank you all. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye.